Motorola is back at it again with the Shatter Shield technology. This is the Moto Z Force 2. Let's find out if this is worth that chatter. When you first get your hands on this device, you immediately notice how thin it is. Coming in at just 6.1 millimeters, it's even thinner than the already pretty thin Galaxy S8. I like the overall design and I feel it has a masculine look to it, but like other devices out there, when you look at the front, you can't help but notice just how big those bezels are. Between those bezels, however, is the 5.5-inch Quad HD display, which Motorola claims won't shatter. And the quality of the display is pretty good. I had no issues with it, but back to that unbreakable aspect of the display. To be perfectly honest, I do trust the technology behind it, but I'd much rather not let it hit the floor. This is one of the selling features on the Moto Z Force 2. And I'm sure it's something that appeals to consumers that have butterfingers or even those who have broken a phone in the past. But there is some drawbacks to it as well. During my time with the device, I noticed the display got scratches faster than any other device I've ever tested. Partly because the first layer on the front is made out of plastic, which withstands breaking a lot better than glass, but isn't as scratch resistant. I really dislike seeing my screen all scratched up, but hey, it's better than a crack, I suppose. If you're like me and you don't like scratches on your screen, then I highly recommend that you do get a screen protector if you purchase this device. Moving along, you may have noticed that there is no headphone jack, and though it doesn't bother me too much, I did feel a struggle when my wireless headphones were straight out of juice and the adapter that comes in the box was nowhere to be found. So remember to keep your headphones charged or the adapter close by. You may have also seen the pins located on the rear of this device. Well, those pins are also part of a selling feature Motorola calls Moto mods. And while I wasn't able to get my hands on some for this review, I did have the pleasure of using the JBL speaker and the projector. It's nice to be able to simply attach those mods and have your phone turn into a speaker or a projector, but I couldn't see myself carrying around extra parts for my phone simply for that reason. Also, I can get similar products for a better price that would not only work with my Motorola, but with my future devices as well. Motorola will make these mods work on its phones for at least 3 years before changing the design. This of course means similar looking phones for at least 3 years, but credit is due here as some companies can't even push a software update past a year. 2017 is the second year for the design, so expect one more, but also expect a different design the year after, as Motorola will probably have to change its design to compete with other manufacturers. Well, what then? You buy a new phone from Motorola and you have to buy new mods for it now. Not to mention, if you buy these mods but then switch to another phone from a different manufacturer, well, you see what I'm getting at. So as for me, I personally wouldn't purchase these. Now, if mods are your thing, then you'll be very happy to know that Motorola is working hard and is committed to making new mods for the devices. So I'll drop a link in the description below for the current mods for you. How about those cameras you've been eyeballing? Well, in short, they're good. Not great, just good. I was able to get some really nice shots with perfect lighting, but then again, that seems to be the case with most high-end phones these days. Just like the rest, drop the lights, you drop the quality. This isn't the phone you buy for its cameras. With dual 12 megapixel cameras at f2.0 aperture, laser autofocus, and face detection, you may think it's going to be one of the best, but it's really not. You won't be making your friends jealous, but what you can do is surprise them with a neat software feature I found to actually be pretty fun to play with. You can select the subject in your photo and add some background effects, which makes your photos look rather nice. You can even have your subject go to space. This is thanks to the dual 12 megapixel camera setup, which doesn't do what the G6 or the iPhone 7 Plus do, but rather collect depth information and allow for these effects. I'll admit it almost always took a few tries, as the software would always try to cut more than I wanted, and there's no way to manually cut around the subject. Here, one sensor is monochrome while the other is color. By combining both images, Motorola claims better overall photos, and it's nothing new, as Huawei's been doing this for some time now. I'd much rather see a wide angle lens or even a portrait mode, just like the iPhone 7 Plus, because the bokeh effect produced by these cameras looks very artificial in my opinion. Video wasn't much of a win for Motorola either, as I found the video to be average. The front-facing camera isn't bad for photos or even video with its 5 megapixel wide-angle camera, and I really like the idea of the front-facing flash as it comes in handy when taking pictures in darker situations, but overall, this isn't the go-to smartphone camera. Where Motorola really nails it is in the software department. The device is silky smooth, and the Snapdragon 835 coupled with 4 GB of RAM plays a role in that, but the way Motorola keeps the software to a minimum and adds only features it feels are useful pays off. Running Android 7.1 Nougat, I had no issues with performance, and I felt the device was responsive and quick to launch pretty much anything. The features like twist to launch the camera or chopped for the flashlight are my favorite, and I wish every phone had them. Then there's the Moto display, which works great and only lights up necessary parts of the screen to show your notifications or the time when you reach for the device. I also really like Google Cards, and they're only a swipe away from your home screen, and I use those pretty often. I did notice the device would get rather warm though, even when performing simple tasks like watching videos or playing games for some time. That probably contributed to my not so good battery life, which, well, let's talk about it. Motorola claims the device provides all-day battery with only 2,730 milliamps, and well, you can, if you don't use your phone. I can think of plenty of phones with bigger batteries, including older phones like the Galaxy S5, which is almost 4 years old. Let that sink in, 4 years old. The first few days the battery was terrible in my case, and after about a week, the battery settled and I was averaging about 3.5 hours of screen on time. I would have to be a little conservative at times to keep the battery lasting all day, which, well, the battery actually never really made it past a full day for me. Thankfully, charging this device was quick, and even though this year's charger isn't a 30-watt charger like last year's, it is charging a smaller battery, so I didn't really feel it was any slower. Battery life is probably my second biggest complaint aside from the easy to scratch screen. Where I feel most of you won't complain is the audio side of things. It's not HTC quality, but Motorola seems to have at least tried to make the experience a little better by having the earpiece double as a speaker. It's not a stereo setup, but it shoots in the right direction and it gets really loud. Playing music from this speaker was a pretty good experience, but don't expect super crisp quality. A minor issue I did have was with the placement of the power keys, as it sits pretty high up for my baby hands, and even though it has the texture to it, I found myself clicking the power key when attempting to adjust the volume, as it's hard to identify when it's the same size as the volume keys. Now, Motorola does include gestures you can enable to use the fingerprint reader as a power switch by holding the sensor for a few seconds and even using it as a replacement for the navigation buttons. I used a device like this during my whole review period and I did get used to it, but it's still a hit or miss when attempting to swipe left or right to either go back or launch the recent apps. It's a good idea, but I think it would have been easier to just add customizable buttons like those found on the OnePlus 5, especially considering the size of these bezels. Okay, so the device might not be the best Android phone around, but it has some compelling features and I think it will genuinely attract the right consumers. If you need a phone that won't break and don't care about top-notch quality photos or things like water resistance or wireless charging, then this might be a great buy. If you already purchased last year's Z-Force and have some mods laying around, this could also be a good buy for you. But if you're looking for an all-around super solid smartphone, I feel there are better options out there. Unfortunately, at $700+ I can't justify the price of this device when there are missed opportunities in key areas like the camera and the battery. Thanks for watching, guys, and thank you to those who commented on my last video and also subscribed. I do want to ask you guys to take a journey with me, help grow this channel. With that said, if you did like this video, don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Remember, it's free. So I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm out of here.